Welcome everyone to another Thursday installment of Mystery Wine Blind Tasting. Super excited to be with you this evening. Amidst all the changes that are happening, this is becoming a constant that I really look forward to. I hope you do too. Who's with us? Chime in, please. Let me know who's here. Let's see if we have the traditional cast of characters and if anybody new is joining us this evening. We've sold approximately 70 plus bottles this week, so that's really exciting. I think that's probably our most attended week thus far. As I'm waiting for others to join, I thought I'd give you a little update. Hi Tran, how are you? Thursday, yeah, Krista's here, good. So a little update by way of Field and Main. I know some things are changing in our world with respect to Governor Northam's announcement about what we can and can't do in restaurants and in other places that people otherwise gather. We are now allowed, I guess, to have people gather in groups less than 10, and if they do so, as long as they can do so as long as they're outside. We're going to put a few tables behind Field and Main in our little lawn grassy area, and people are welcome to come and sit in those tables. We're not going to pivot just yet back to a full service operation, so we're going to continue to do sandwiches and to-go items for guests to come up and pick up, and if they want to stay and eat it here, they can, and if they prefer to take it home, they can. So we're not quite ready yet to jump back into service. I don't think we're not clear yet on how things are going to proceed, and so we're going to take a more prudent approach and wait just a moment. But we're going to add a few things to our to-go menu, and we'll have those options out shortly. Today we finalized a better version of a steak and cheese and a really cool crab cake sandwich. So some fun stuff that you can look forward to in that way, and we'll take things step by step. But tonight we get to enjoy this wine, and thank you, Rick, for pointing out a good plan. Molly Arstrom and Linda are here. Oh, great, that's great. Kathy, I appreciate you saying that we should stay safe. Yeah, we're trying to keep everybody safe, and at this point, making sure that everybody does what we're doing so far and what you're supporting us in doing is enabling all our team to be kept whole, and we want to maintain that as we make the next steps toward getting eventually back toward opening our actual doors and dining here and there. So the Garasics are with us. Melanie's here. Stephen, I saw, popped in. So we've got a full crew, which is really great. Brandy, hi to you as well. So we're super excited to be doing what we're doing and happy to continue that. And I think what will happen as we go forward is that we'll be able to take a metered approach to opening a little bit here and there and broadening our offering. And I think what's exciting is that as we reopen, some of the things that we're doing now won't change. We're going to maintain some kind of weekly meal to go, and we're certainly going to maintain making burgers, as some people have developed a crack-like habit for them, and we're not going to shorten their supply. So great. Caitlin's here. Kimberly's here. Oh, great. Amy, for the first time, welcome. Excited to have you with us. So for those of you that are joining us for the first time, like Amy, I'm glad to have you with us. You can pop over to the website if you didn't get this already when you picked up the wine. If you'd like to have a reference sheet for the tasting this evening, if you go to our website, fieldandmainrestaurant.com, and you visit the events page, there, you scroll down to the tasting notification there. There's a little note that says if you'd like to have the tasting sheet, click here, and you could do that and pick up this particular form. This form is what we use as a reference point to kind of guide our discussion as we go through the process of blind tasting. Matthew feels attacked by the hamburger. That's fine. And Kate is noting that they're amazing. Yeah, I agree. They're a little bit. They call you and then they grasp you and they don't let you go. So what we do, for those of you that are new, is we work our way through this wine by way of a discussion, talking about what it is and what it isn't. In the first parts, for sure, we're talking about what it isn't, and then we try to rule the world down. We try to narrow it down into a focused few spots, a kind of an initial idea of what this wine might be, and we use a deductive process, one that is sort of a hybrid of what the Court of Master Sommeliers use and the WSET program uses, and then sort of what we've developed here at Field and Main on our own to kind of create an evaluation of wines. And the goal is, of course, to be able to understand a little bit about the wine here enough to be able to perhaps venture a guess and get that guess right, sure, that's one of the goals. The bigger goal in my mind is to be improving our understanding of wines. And as you improve your understanding and your appreciation of them, your enjoyment goes up. So this is something that I think we should all hold in focus here. So if we get it wrong, we get it wrong. But we enjoyed the wine and we appreciate the wine and we understand a little bit more about our own palates as the process goes forward. So Chris noted that this was a red wine. I think he gets the first guess, the first point. That's right. And that's maybe trite to say, but that allows us to rule out, as we've talked about in weeks past, sparkling wine probably, because I don't see bubbles there. It rules out white wines. It rules out rosé wines. It probably rules out most of the dessert wine world. So we're already chunking down the world into a smaller, more bite-sized bite that we can crack here together. So Melanie's with us. Great. Rick's here. Welcome, Bambi. Great to have you with us. Are the Knobs is with us? I didn't see that earlier, but I was talking. The Swanberg's right here. That's great. All right, so let's pour yourself a little taste of this wine, or a bigger taste if you'd like. My colleague off to the side, Julie, is here. And while I pour this, kudos to Julie and to Tony, who have been really developing our wine program for a number of years here, and we just got a nod from the RAMI nod rather from the Restaurant Association of Metropolitan Washington for our wine list. We've been nominated for a RAMI award, which is exciting. So kudos to them and for the great program they're putting together and all the wonderful wines they've been picking for us these Thursday nights. All right, so wine. What does it look like? It's red. Yes, we know that. Is it clear? What are you guys seeing? Clear? Does it have a pale, medium, or deep intensity? And is it purple, ruby, tawny? What do you think? Hey, John. Oh, man, good to see you too, sir. Cool. So I'd say this is definitely red, as we noted. It's kind of clear. You can see through. Is it clear or hazy? Like if it's hazy, it's got something floating in it. It's got kind of an impediment to it, to you seeing straight through it. It is clear. It is more pale to medium. So if it was deep and dark in color and intensity, the appearance, you wouldn't be able to really read through it. You can definitely see letters through it, and I would say at the rim you can kind of read right through it. Yeah, so it's a little bit lighter red wine, and what does that mean, right? What do we know already by just looking at this, thinking, this is red. It's a little bit more on the ruby side of things, right? I don't see too much in the way of garnet, and not a lot of purple, more on the ruby thing. So it's a ruby-ish colored wine with a pale sort of medium intensity. It's not necessarily super structured, deep, rich, powerful. So we could probably venture a guess that, hey, this is probably not a very warm climate Cabernet Sauvignon or a Tannat or Petit Verdot, for example. We can probably start to put those ideas aside and think more like maybe this is Sangiovese or Valpolicella or Gamay or Pinot Noir, things that are on the lighter side of reds. Yep, Sean, I agree. It's clear and kind of garnet. Yep. And Eric is already throwing out Pinot. Ruby to pink rim from Melanie. Yeah, it does have a little variation on the rim. One of the things we've talked about in the past too that you can tell a little bit about wine, one of the indicators of some higher alcohol potentially might be that sort of watery rim. And there is a little bit of that here. That pink goes from ruby to sort of pink to almost a watery meniscus there. You'll see variation on that rim. So when I'm talking about a rim, when you put the glass like this, you tilt it a little bit and you look down. Is the wine the same from the very middle all the way to the edge, or are there gradations? Are there variations there? And if there are variations, you can learn a little bit about the wine sometimes from those variations. That variation here, this looks pretty youthful. There isn't a kind of a browning or a tawnying on the rim. And so this wine looks to be more on the youthful side of things. It has a bit of that watery meniscus, which might be an indication of some alcohol, which would be an indication of perhaps a warmer climate rather than a cooler climate. So we might have a potentially higher alcohol. So what else can we learn? From the appearance, it doesn't have any bubbles, so it's a still wine, so it's a still grape. And from there, we should smell it. Matthew's noting already not a lot of no's. So let's talk about that, right? Is it clean or unclean? And clean meaning, does it have a fault? And faults are plentiful and many, and they oftentimes show up in the form of sort of nail polish remover. They show up in terms of sweaty socks or kind of wet cardboard. They show up in the form of plastic Band-Aid, baby doll sometimes. There are a whole host of faults that could be in a particular wine. Just ask Melanie. And this wine isn't showing particularly any faults. And so it's clean. Yeah, I agree, Kathy. It's clean. The smell of the ocean from Erica, that's good. The intensity of the smell, Matthew noted earlier that it wasn't super profound or pronounced, right? So is it kind of muted, light intensity? Is it medium, sort of pronounced? I think there are some things coming out of the glass, but not a ton. And so I would venture to say, yeah, this is probably a little bit not pronounced. It's not light, so it's somewhere in the middle, which most things in the evaluation sense are in the middle. Clean wine, alcohol, vanilla, new oak on the nose, mask the fruit for me. Tanya's just crushing it right now. She's got a list going. Tanya, what do you smell when you smell oak? Give us some indicators for oak for you, and I'll talk a little bit about oak while you do that. But oak generally can be presented depending on where the oak is coming from. You have oak that's domestic, so American oak. You have European oak, French oak in particular, but then you have oak from Slovenia. You have acacia wood too, and they each have, essentially think about oak as being the vessel that the wine is stored in, but that vessel is like spices in a sauce. And so when you make a red wine sauce and it's just red wine, there's that. Then you add clove or mace or black pepper or anything else spice oriented to that sauce. You add a dimension, and the char on the wood that's in the barrel, those barrels are put over a small fire and they're charred from light toast to medium toast to heavy toast, and variations in between the light, medium, and medium heavy. And those can give you different spice notes. And so if you're picking up spice notes typically in a wine, it's not because of the fruit, generally speaking, it's because of the actual wood. And so if you get a spice note, there's some kind of wood element. And I'm seeing here Tanya coming back with coconut dill. We've got vanilla and char, some cedar, some vanilla. Right, so certain oaks register different levels of spice in terms of how they present. And so American oak, generally speaking, gives you a bit more vanillin. You get a little bit more of kind of, for me, a kind of a corn buttery element. Cedar presents very well from a European or French oak perspective. Spices coming through on both sides. Sometimes you get that dill and coconut coming off of American oak in particular. So Tanya's getting that. Excuse me. Faint tobacco smell coming through. That can come from a little bit of the fruit itself. So some baking spices from Jan. Cool. Yeah, so we're getting spice, right? More spice, it seems like, than fruit, but let's dive in a little bit to fruit. Are we getting any fruit? I'm getting some red fruit, per the color too. I think there's a little kind of raspberry note. There's a tart cherry note. Jan Nelson's definitely throwing in some leather and smoke. Yeah, it's got more secondary aromas than the fruit aromas, right? So on the fruit, earth, wood acronym, few, we're going to go looking for a few things in the wine. We start with fruit, and it's faint. Some stewed strawberries from Melanie. That's a nice descriptor. Yeah, it's not super pronounced on the fruit. Oh, Tanya's making a note. Okay, Tanya, so you're not getting the coconut and dill from this particular wine, but you're just saying that was an indicator of wood. You're getting the spice and elements of that in the wood here. Yeah, I agree. Okay, good. So some berries, a little bit of berry from Max, and a little strawberry from Chris, and berry from Jan. Kathy's throwing in some boysenberry syrup from IHOP. Yes. Very, very specific. That's awesome. And some spice with cranberry. I like the cranberry. So there's like an underripe red fruit character here, right? It's not super opulent. It's got crushed raspberries, coming from Caitlin. Yeah, but its fruit is mostly masked, as Stephen is pointing out. It is. It's got a little bit more of that earth, smoke, leather, spice. So on the earthen side, what are we getting? Hey, Lori, how are you? That earth element, right? There was that, someone noted earlier too, a little bit of that sea spray, kind of salty salinity element. That seems to be here for sure. There is that sort of leather, earthen undercurrent. Yep. Kathy, Erica would like to know which IHOP. Subtle cinnamon. Yeah, good. So we're definitely noting oak, right? We're noting an oak signature, an oak profile. There's a little vegetal note for me too, but it's like a sweet parsnip that's been roasted. So there's an earthy root veg kind of thing happening here for me too. The Orströms are saying a jagged roan. It's cool. You should get points for that descriptor. And Eric is pointing out this might be an Oregon Pinot, closer to the sea. Slight rubber matte and some old world quality coming from Sean. Yep, I think this is pretty comfortable that way. You can think about old world, you can think about new world. Let's talk about that when we get to the taste, because I think that'll help us to verify. So we're talking about a tart red fruit, but minimal fruit profile on the nose with definite wood elements in terms of spice, cedar, cinnamon, and so on. There's earthen elements. So let's see if we can verify those elements as we get into the actual taste. Chris is saying it's a tough one, huh? Good luck. What are you leaving? You're not going to play anymore? Come on, Chris. We're going to get there. Or we'll just get it wrong and drink it. It'll be fine. So what do you think? Let's talk about the taste as opposed to the flavor first, and then we'll go back to the flavors and verify them. But the taste being what you're experiencing on your palate. Is this a dry wine? Yeah, it's definitely dry wine. How about the acidity? Where do you place the acidity in this? Low, medium, high? Not a ton of acidity. This is medium, low to medium. I'm salivating a little bit, but not a ton. So we've got a dry wine with some acidity, but not a lot. Tannins, we just had one comment that they're surprisingly strong. But they're really tiny and fine, huh? They're not lingering. They're not real aggressive. There is some tannin here. Tanya, you're saying medium plus, huh? See, I'm in a more low, which Chris is noting too. Sean's in the medium. What do you think, Julie? Medium kind of acidity. So let's say with medium right now, but maybe for some a little higher and some a little less. And let's talk about that tannin. The tannin seems like it's not super pronounced. The wine seems a little bit lean, relatively speaking. The volume of this wine, the texture is a little bit on the lighter side, not quite to medium for me, but that tannin is sitting out for this in a way that's just a bit more aggressive, perhaps, for that body, for the weight. How about the alcohol? I think the alcohol's playing with us a little bit in this one too. You getting any hit? Yeah, the tannin's kind of building on the second sip, the third sip. It sort of stays heavy and lays in there. Okay. So we've got tannin in a moderate fashion. We've got medium-ish acidity. We've got dry wine. We've got Stephen noting these would be firm tannins. That's a good way to describe them, I think. Yeah, they're definitely not silky and long. They're not broad and voluminous. They're just kind of firm. Yeah, that's good. Melanie's pointing out there could be some oak tannin. We had a bunch of oak descriptors on the actual palate, or on the aroma, excuse me, in the nose. And Rick, you're right. The tannin adds to an astringency that is present here. Spanish Tempranillo is being thrown out. So Tempranillo, Pinot Noir, Gamay, we were talking about. Should we put Nebbiolo in there? Maybe not, because of the lower acidity. Possibly, perhaps. Maybe something like Norella Mascalese, which has a bunch of tannin and is a little bit lighter in wine. Something like Mencia. perhaps, Spanish red, which can be earthier. Those are all kind of venturing toward the Old World. Are we pretty convinced that this is Old World, or do you think we should also consider, as was pointed out earlier, perhaps Oregon Pinot Noir, giving us a little bit of that structure, that sort of sea element? Kimberly's pointing out there's a little dry rock finish that lingers after the third or fourth sip. I like that description too. There is a mineral thing. And definitely the tannins are just gripping more and more now with each sip. A little bit of licorice and sambuca. Yeah, a lot of votes for the Old World. +1 for the Old World. So we're all in the Old World on this, huh? Yeah, I think it was Tanya just, you guys are all commenting, it's wonderful, and I can't keep up, but Tanya was just noting that she was all for the Old World too, but then the lower acid, the structure, the tannin, and the muted fruit with the wood component seems like the wood is sort of overpowering a touch here. So perhaps on the on the New World, and Erica, absolutely always remember that Tony's involved here, and so that is a case for us to be potentially tricked. Hey Jean, how are you? Welcome. And not Pinot, but you think it's old. Okay, cool. Orstroms are saying, Molly's saying not Mencia, but just guessing. And the tannins are just kind of opening up and getting broader and broader. So Tempranillo, we tried that Rioja, right? And the Tempranillo, the tannins were pretty pronounced in that. It would be really cruel to do another Tempranillo. Like, I'm already ruling out that it's not Tempranillo because we've done Tempranillo already, and that would be the wrong thing to do. We should be tasting the wine in front of us as opposed to gaining an understanding of that. So let's start working our way through some of these Old World options, right? We talked about one of the first grapes that was thrown out was Gamay. So Gamay comes from Beaujolais, typically in France. Gamay is known for being tart red fruit, sometimes tutti fruity, sometimes a little bit of an earthen quality underneath it. But it's not really one that has a ton of oak signature usually, and it's never one that shows a ton of richness in the way of tannin. So probably could put that to bed and say it's not Gamay. Pinot Noir, we talked about. The structure here is pretty powerful, and the tannins are a bit strong, probably a little bit heavy, as Kimberly's pointing out for a Pinot Noir. I mean, you could go to the northern part of Burgundy and be in Gevrey or even Fixin or something like that, where you might just get a deep, rich, powerful kind of very masculine style, a Pommard perhaps. But I think, as Chris pointed out last week, at $25 or $30, you're probably not drinking a village Burgundy in this particular tasting. So I could be wrong, but yeah. That's nice. So let's say it's probably not, we're not really then in the Gamay Pinot camp. So then where do we go? And do we go to Italy? Do we go to Spain? Do we go to Portugal again? Bambi saying it's some Charbonneau, some phenols. Yeah, it's got that astringent quality that Rick was talking about on the back palate. Melanie's pointing out Garnacha. Candy threw out Chilean Merlot. Merlot's always a sneaky one that way. It has the red fruit element. It has tannin. It has wood. So should we not consider Merlot? That's a very good question. Wow. This wine's changed a lot, hasn't it? From the first sip for me, it was definitely on the lighter side of things. It's definitely upped its game into a medium, more muscular wine. It's got more structure. Oh my gosh, Nod's here. Wow, I went to high school and junior high school with Nod, and it's been 25 years. I hope you're doing well, sir. Great to have you with us. we're tasting some wine. So if you have a wine with you at home in Western Springs, where I grew up, by all means, pop it open and drink along with us. Chin chin. Malbec is interesting too, because the tannins are starting to come on a little bit here. Yeah, why not consider that? We were thinking about Old World and New World, and we were thinking about New World, but mostly in the context of the United States, and for sure going South America could be interesting in this context. And you could have Chilean Merlot, or you could have Argentinian Malbec present here with some of that red fruit. Some of the higher elevation Malbec could be interesting. Rhone, yeah, right. I think we should consider the Rhone for sure. The Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, Cinsault could be a multi-blend. There's all that sort of spice that we talked about that was definitely a European oak. So Marianne throwing out Sangiovese. Yeah, one of the kind of tells you can get on Sangiovese too is if the light goes through it and it sort of hits orangish, you might get Sangiovese, and my light's not the greatest. I get a little orange hue, so it could be Sangiovese. I would think there would be a little higher acidity, generally speaking, but and I'm not getting kind of, we're getting all that reddish fruit. I don't know. We're putting out Pinot Noir, we're putting out Gamay. I think we threw out Nebbiolo because it didn't have the high enough acidity. We could keep Sangiovese in there. We could keep Malbec in there by way of, Melanie Elliott is pointing out too that it could be not Chilean Malbec, but it could be French Malbec, so it could be Cahors. So we could be in the southern part of France, close to Bordeaux, in a little village called Cahors, and be tasting Malbec from there. And that's not a bad thought at all, because it's got some tannin, and the wines from there do have some powerful tannin. That'd be a cool wine to be tasting right now. Nod's got a 2007 Jordan cab open. That's great. Nice, man. And Kimberly, I think the Sangiovese would have more cherry quality. Yeah, I think it would have a little bit more fruit present. The tannins are just enveloping the mouth right now. They are opening up. They're big. I really like the Cahors idea. I like the French Malbec option. This has more tannin than I've tasted in any kind of Argentinian Malbec, with the relative lightness of body. Chateau de Cedre makes a Cahors kind of intro level Malbec that's akin to this. Sometimes it has a little bit more dark fruit. Are we getting any dark fruit on this? I have to go back to pour some more. By dark, I mean black fruit relative to sort of the red fruit that we got initially. Any more fruit coming out of this? Max, yeah, Super Tuscans are an option, because we could have Merlot from Bulgari. I still think we get a little higher acid. And Barolo or Piedmont area, yeah, I think we're kind of ruling out Nebbiolo because of the acidity. And I could be completely wrong on that, because the tannins are there appropriately and they are expanding. I could just be walking away from that too quickly. Melanie, the optics of pouring wine out of a brown bag while you're at home in front of a computer are not as bad as if you were, say, outside in your car or walking on the street. So keep it in a brown bag just in this situation, and I don't think it'll be as bad. All right, Nebbiolo could be in the running. I'm just not getting that kind of zing of the acid. I like the Malbec idea a bunch. Let's venture to Spain real quick. Tempranillo. It's kind of in the running potentially. We've got the red fruit, we got the tannin, we have the oak. Wow. The black fruit, plum. Yeah, thank you for that. Plum. So plum kind of ventures back toward Merlot territory too. And I would have a hard time placing this as sort of a right bank Bordeaux variation, but Merlot blend Super Tuscan from Italy, and we could be talking about that for sure. I've tasted Merlot with a lot of tannins, Jan, that is like this, but Erica, I am spitting sometimes, although perhaps I'm starting to slur a little bit, and no, I'm not. And Kate, yeah, I think we talked about Mencia. I mean, Mencia would be an option here. It has a bit of that earthen element. It has that rusticity. Whether or not this is a blend oftentimes will give you a lot of different things, kind of not competing per se, but when you're listening to a pure solo from one instrument, there's a purity to it. They can play a lot of different notes, but it just doesn't have the same resonance as having a series of different instruments playing at the same time. And I'm not getting that. This is seemingly more single varietal to me. It just has a lack of that dimensional complexity. I wouldn't say this is not a complex wine. It has some complexity for sure, but the tannins are just powerful. So at this point, I'm kind of lost relative to Mencia, Nebbiolo perhaps, maybe Super Tuscan, Tempranillo, and I like a lot the idea of Malbec from Cahors, and I wouldn't have come up with that without you, so thank you. The Rhone, I think I'm going to venture away from the Rhone just because I don't think I see enough of that blend component, and I'm not seeing some of that blue fruit, some of the riper fruit, some of the raisiny fruit. Yeah, Caitlin, I think, yeah, for me it's just a little bit too straightforward for it to be a blend. And I'm glad you guys are finding it delicious. Erica's throwing out a Shiraz, maybe from South Africa. Yeah, I don't get the pepper from this. That is kind of a tell. Sometimes there's that meaty element from Syrah that I'm just not quite finding. I'm finding that root vegetable element that I just can't quite place. So where are you guys going? Where are you thinking? Yeah. Take a moment. Just see what comes to you. See what, if you don't try to think about it, what answer presents itself to you. Take a sip. Should we consider Tannat? Tannat's got a ton of tannin. And it can be presented a little bit on the redder side sometimes, in which case we could be looking at French Tannat too. The tannins just keep building and building and building. This wine is becoming so much more tannic. Rick, you like Malbec too, huh? Time, 32. All right, let's go through what we got. We got, from the appearance, it was clear, it was medium to pale. Remember, we could see through it. We can still kind of see through it. It's not a super thick skinned grape. It's not getting its color from the tough, rich skins. It has sort of a ruby color to it. It looks a little bit youthful with a little bit of alcohol. We got a limited amount of red fruits, cranberry, tart raspberry, tart cherry, right? So bright, kind of underripe red fruit, nothing in the way of super dark fruit until we started getting a little bit of plum on the palate. So plum there. We got tannin, we get dry, we get moderate acidity. So it's kind of old world for all of us. Sean's throwing out multiple Ciano. Steven's in the Rhone. Do we get we got a ton of oak on the nose. Do we get a lot of that on the palate? Erica's saying, thank you, Tony. We're all over the map. Yeah, Tony just texted me and it just chimed up that so he's enjoying this from afar, I'm sure. I like the tannin. And I could put us comfortably, I think, in sort of the southern France sort of Malbec Cahors, or we could go into Maturin Tannat. But I just don't see the color for the Tannat. So I'm going to go, if I have to venture a guess, I'm going to stay with sort of Cahors, Cahors, Malbec from France. Probably in the 2 to 4 year range. It's new. Some of others have chimed in with Priorat. Priorat, I think I'd get a little more color. We could get the tannin for sure. It could be old Carignan, kind of interesting wine in that respect. That would be really cool. Again, as I said, I was definitely having a hard time on this wine pinpointing it because it has similarities in certain things. I don't think it's exactly a spot that we have kind of deemed primary spots that we go to quickly, like the Piedmont, like Burgundy, like Bordeaux. I think it's outside of one of those regions. So if we go, I don't think it's Rioja, for example. So if we go a little bit outside of those regions and we're close, then good. If not, no problem. So I'm going to stick with Cahors. You guys place your final bets before we pop this open. Kathy's throwing in Carignan, but the medianist, not the medianist from Wavra. Yeah, you could get single varietal Carignan that has a sinewyiness to it and has a tannin to it, and you could get that in the southern part of France, perhaps. The Languedoc-Roussillon from Tanya. Yeah, exactly where I was headed in that thought. I don't think that's a bad guess at all. We're kind of all thinking then in that regard, sort of in the southwestern part of France, southern France. That's kind of neat. It goes well with raw green beans, Kimberly. Wow, like that's a find because not much does in the way of the wine world. And Chris, you have no clue on this. We were just talking, Chris and I don't know if it was today or yesterday, they are all the same day, about doing fairly well thus far. And Tony just ratcheted up with Julie here on this one and made it a bit more challenging. All right, you ready? Should we do this? I'm going to say 2 to 4 years of age. So 2017, Cahors. Because the only producer I really know that does it is Chateau de Cedra. I'll say that. Here we go. This is Carignan. Old vine from Domaine Berthet Rhône. Yeah, this is great. So this is Rhône for all you Rhône heads, but 100%, or sorry, Carignan is a new appellation, rather, a new cru status appellation in the Côte de Rhône Village cru appellations. So you got, Gigondas, Vacheras. Carignan is new in that regard, and it gives you all that tannin. Wow. So this should be Grenache and Syrah and Mourvèdre and Cinsault and Carignan, and yeah. So it's a lot. It's like a little baby Chateauneuf de Pape with a ton of tannin. So that's fun, huh? The vintage on this too is 2018. Very cool. I have not had this wine before. Yeah, this is something else, huh? This has got some life to it. This wine will age for a bit. And I was pretty comfortable walking away from the idea of the blend. And that's actually going back to our conversation about the blend when we said, yeah, it's a little bit more kind of primary and not as dimensional, not symphonic. That's when Tony texted, ha 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 ha. So, that's funny. It's got a lot of grapes in it, and they're all blended together. So this is a fascinating wine, huh? It teaches you a lot. So when you get something wrong, I was watching a blind tasting with Master Sommelier Fred Dame, and his comment about blind tasting is that I remember the ones I didn't get because I learned something from them. The ones I did get, yay, good for me, but I knew that already, and I'm looking always to have something else teach me. And so I agree with him there in that regard. There's a lot to be learned from this.
I still say
Jan says it's still Malbec. There's probably a little bit of Malbec in it, Jan, just a little bit anyway. Let's just call it that. So it is definitely young, yeah, for sure. And that's where that tannin, but the tannin just was like receded. It was like hiding in the wine to start with, and then it just exploded, which is really cool. Not something that I would have picked out. So yeah, Gene, I agree 100%. I'm surprised it's a blend, but Rick's point is interesting too, is that it's 14.7% alcohol. It has a bunch of alcohol. It's warm. And we were talking about the New World at first and the lower relative acidity. It's coming from a warmer spot and it's got a high alcohol. Amazingly, it doesn't drink with a big burn. Like it doesn't present itself as a very alcoholic wine, but I tell you what, if you finish this brown bag bottle yourself, you're going to feel it when you stand up. So, and Chris is saying Tony's going to have to do dishes tomorrow. No, he wins. He got us a tough one. That's good. We can't have all easy stuff. Like the Riesling, we were all like, Riesling. Okay, Riesling. Now let's figure out what it isn't, just by way of a half an hour discussion. This one we worked hard for a half an hour to talk about the fact that we really don't know what this is, and I didn't either. So this is Old Vine Carène. This is so, in the world of the Rhone, if you can start to find Carènes out there, and that's Cairane, which is not Carignan, that are great. It's the place. It's a little village. I think there's some great value to be found here. And Kathy's coming back with 75 Grenache, 10 Mourvèdre, and 15 Senso. Thank you for that, Kathy. Summers, my sister's saying, bring some home. Yeah, it's super structured and an interesting wine. These are wines that I think will show beautifully in time, and if we can get them with value now, great, all the better. Put a case away, put 6 bottles away. If you have room for 2, put 2 bottles away, and just forget about them. So
we have more here.
We also have more here. Shameless plug. It's continuing to open up and change. I don't know if you guys stuck with the Rioja as we opened it, but we did after we finished the broadcast, and it just kept getting better and better and better. And as this was noted, it's pretty young, and so it needs some time. I'd give it some more time and reward yourself this evening with a little sip that you leave for a couple of hours and watch as it develops. It's already doing that now. Yeah, this wine is alive. It's kind of, I guess, just like us, if we were cloistered in a box or in a bottle and held tight, and then we actually got to come out and we went, oh, I'm not sure where I am, and oh, I'm out here. And we get to get kind of more animated with things in time. This wine is doing that. It's taking in its oxygen and going all the more so. That's great. Amy, to your question about shipping the mystery wine, we do not have a shipping license at this point. So we are trying to figure out whether we can get one in time to do this some more, but we will we'll continue to kind of work on that idea, and if we do get the ability to ship these wines, we will let you know through our website and on Facebook. But absolutely interested in doing that. And then yes, Max, Tony does have this for sale. This is for sale. We have some more in-house right now. And thank you so much, Jean, for the wonderful comment. This will go with the Bourguignon for sure. We appreciate the support. We had the beef Bourguignon for dinner tonight. I'd like to give Tony and Julie credit for lining these things up, but that didn't happen that way. Tony already has enough going for him tonight by stumping us on this one. So thank you, Chris, and everybody else for joining us. I hear you, Kate, on the umami burger. We'll be here tomorrow making up more burgers, and oh wow, more spice, more cranberry. Oh, it's just fantastic. So cheers to everyone. I will see you again on Thursday if I don't see you before then. And Kathy's made a correction. This is 60% Grenache, 20% Syrah, and 20% Carignan. Cool. Cheers, everybody.